You want me to put that on my Tudor?
This one's wife is the evil destroying her. Hello, I'm H.G. Tudor. Much has been written and said about this one's wife's physical appearance in recent days. There has often been comment about the way that she looks, mainly as a consequence of the fashion that doesn't fit her particularly well, and some poor fashion choices. I've explained in parts passim why it is that she selects clothing that does not suit her, does not fit her, and does not flatten her. Her body shape is often likened to SpongeBob SquarePants, a somewhat boxy shape with line-backer shoulders and no waist. Her hair often comes in for commentary because it never looked particularly well styled, and of course she no longer embraces the natural frizz of her hair, instead always wanting it to be straightened. There are suggestions that she uses extensions. But what has garnered the most attention just recently is her face and weight loss. And by anybody's reckoning, the recent photograph that emerged from the Navy SEALs event could, even at the best, be said to not be particularly flattering. As I mentioned in a video yesterday, there's marked weight loss, resulting in a lollipop head appearance, but furthermore, her skin looks particularly poor. She looks to have aged. The veneers look even larger than usual in her mouth, and therefore this has resulted in particular commentary about the fact that she doesn't look good. Some going so far as to say that she looks positively awful. Now, there will be some who will suggest that it is unfair to talk about a person's physical appearance, but what you have to remember is that this one's wife puts great stock in her physical appearance, and it is appropriate to talk about it for the purposes of her narcissism. This is a woman who regularly wants to be photographed, who believes that she's beautiful. Heart attack beautiful is what she's put out there. She wants to be prized for the way that she looks. She believes that she is a gorgeous specimen of a woman. And therefore that is linked to her narcissism, which tells her, because she's a somatic narcissist, that she is drop-dead gorgeous, and that all women want to look like her, and all men want to knock her hip out. And therefore it is valid to comment about her physical appearance, and why she looks the way that she does now. It's also been the case that, as a consequence of the fact that she doesn't look good, people have commented, well, this is what happens. The nastiness on the inside is seeping to the outside. That the evil that resides within her is aging her. That she's becoming withered as a consequence of the vitriol that pumps through her veins. Tempting as it is to think that that is the case, that there is some kind of justice about the fact that her looks are being affected by the person that she is this actually the case? Is it the case that somebody who is a narcissist, who would be labelled as evil, is it really the case that the evil nature of that individual is having such an impact upon their looks? Well, I can point to plenty of narcissists who still look good, notwithstanding their supposed evil ways. You're listening to one speaking to you now. Whilst admittedly you can't see what I look like, I assure you that the supposed evil which lurks within me has not manifested in any deterioration of my looks. But there are further examples beyond me. since this one's wife is female, I will stick to female examples of narcissists that are aging, and there is no deterioration in their looks. Angelina Jolie is one example. Charlize Theron, Megan Fox, Mariah Carey, Taylor Swift. Those are just a handful of examples of narcissists who are getting older, some older than this one's wife, some younger, but there's been no deterioration in their looks in the way that this one's wife has. If you were to suggest that all narcissists are intrinsically evil, and that as they age, the evil from within seeps without, then those examples I've given you somewhat fly in the face of such a theory. However, might it be that with this one's wife she is particularly nasty, and therefore that is what is emerging, that somehow her evil ways are being taken out of her in terms of a deterioration of her physical appearance? The fact is, she doesn't regard herself as evil. She doesn't sit inside a hollowed-out volcano going, "Wahahaha," as she plans some kind of awful plot against humanity to turn everybody into meerkats. No, she actually believes that she's a kind person, and that is part of the delusion of her narcissism. Might it then be perhaps the lifestyle of a narcissist which impacts in this way? That is getting closer to accuracy. It's evident that the deterioration in this one's wife's looks are a combination of factors. First of all, let's not lose sight of base camp. You wouldn't call her necessarily ugly, but you wouldn't say that she was pretty either. The base material that she had is that she's a moderately attractive, generic-looking woman who you would say that when she dresses correctly and has makeup on, she scrubs up okay. But you wouldn't turn around and say that she was stunning. Before she had work done, she had unruly teeth, a large nose, a moon-shaped face. And of course, one of the things that is problematic for her, and this is linked to her narcissism, is that much of her expressionism through her face and her eyes isn't governed by emotional empathy, but in fact is governed by her narcissism. Thus there's no warmth in her eyes. Her eyes are cruel. Her smile is entirely insincere. Again, there is no warmth in it. It is a fixed rictus grin. And therefore, that doesn't always flatter when it comes to particular pictures, the absence of warmth and this fixed rictus grin that she has. Accordingly, part of the problem is that what she was graced with physically to begin with was not necessarily superlative. I recognise, of course, that that's somewhat subjective, but I think on the whole that if you were to line up a range of women, you would put her sort of in the middling to sort of lower end compared to other people generally. Thus, what we're seeing is the fact that to begin with, she was neither excessively beautiful or stunning. But there's more to it than that. Of course, she's fighting the advancement of age. She's aged somewhere in her 40s. 42, if the official version is to be believed. Others believe that she is older. And yet, she, of course, wants to look like she's in her early 20s. And the problem with that is that she's going to be motivated to utilize cosmetic surgery and other enhancements to try and achieve that, like many people who want to remain looking young. Some people have such work and it's very effective. It looks natural and it enhances them. But we're all well aware of the instances where the outcome is absolutely horrendous, resulting in a plastic, Frankenstein-looking appearance. With this one's wife, it may well be the case that some of the procedures that she's repeatedly had have taken their toll on her physical appearance, and that is what we're seeing now. Remember, she wants to be in her early 20s. She's deluded to believe that that's her age group. that's why so often she hangs around young people, because not only does her narcissism view them as easier to control, but it's also because she wants to acquire character traits from them by remaining ever young. Now, I don't think she's perhaps gone down the Peter Nygård route of trying to maintain youth. For those of you who aren't familiar with Peter Nygård, he is a disgraced Canadian fashion mogul, who has found himself repeatedly accused of rape, sexual assault, harassment of women. He was accused of impregnating women, then forcing them to have an abortion, and then harvesting the stem cells from the fetuses to be injected into him in order to stay young. Indeed, real supervillain material there. More about Nygård on a further occasion. There's no suggestion, of course, that this one's wife has gone down that route, but in such behaviours, there's a similarity in the sense of having an obsession with remaining looking young. And for this one's wife, the aging experience that she's having is going to be a threat to her control. And that is part of what we're seeing. It's age that's causing this deleterious effect upon her looks. Her looks are also being affected by her diet. It's quite apparent that there's been a significant calorific reduction in her intake, and there are suggestions that the way that she looks is being influenced by her use of Ozempic. There's no guarantee confirmation that that is being used by her, but many individuals see similarities in her appearance to others that have used it, that she's got the Ozempic face. By restricting her intake and perhaps not eating particularly well, that is going to impact upon her looks. It'll affect her skin. It'll affect her hair. And also, of course, it makes her look particularly gaunt. We've seen her legs looking skinnier than ever recently. And we've also seen that with the gaunt expression, which accentuates her cheekbones and her mouth, making her look like the lollipop head that I've mentioned, is as a consequence of this restricted diet. Therefore, her appearance is being affected by what she is, or perhaps more accurately, is not eating. Her skin looks particularly poor. It looks dehydrated and pitted, and I suspect that she has not really always taken care of it appropriately. I also suspect that we're seeing the impact of alcohol intake. It's long been suggested that this one's wife enjoys a good old drink, and if the rumours are correct that there is excessive alcohol consumption, that will dry out the skin, causing it to lose its elasticity and result in some of the appearances that we're seeing now. Furthermore, she doesn't strike me as somebody that undertakes regular exercise. There's no muscle tone. There is no light muscle mass about her, which is particularly useful for burning calories. Instead, what we have is somebody who attains a skinny shape not through exercise, but by not eating enough. And in the circumstances, that failure to undertake any form of exercise also impacts upon a somewhat lifeless appearance. There is no vitality, there's no sort of rejuvenating glow about her. Accordingly, whilst it's tempting to want to believe that the way that she is looking is almost punishment, justice for her evil ways, the fact is that the way that she is looking is far more linked to her lifestyle choices. Those lifestyle choices, of course, are being governed by her narcissism. So indirectly, it is her narcissism that is causing her to look this way as a consequence of wanting to look younger than she actually is because of the narcissistic traits of pride and vanity and how youthfulness accentuates control. The fact that she wants to look skinny because that enables her, in her mind, to look better, and that is driven again by her narcissism, results in the diet that she's on, the possible use of Ozempic. Furthermore, keep in mind that she's facing daily threats to control, and that punctures her construct and causes her to bleed fuel. dropping the fuel level. In some instances, she may well seek to assert control by retreat, by staying in a position of withdrawal, staying away from people. And when that happens, it will reduce her fuel intake. One way of compensating for a reduced fuel level is to turn to either drugs or alcohol, because they are fuel substitutes, because they give the narcissist a similar sensation to the receipt of fuel. And therefore, it might be the case that the alcohol consumption, which is impacting upon her physical appearance, is being driven by her seeking, subconsciously, a fuel substitute, resulting in her drinking more than usual. Accordingly, it is not the case that the intrinsic evil nature of this one's wife is somehow eating her from within, causing that whatever lurks beneath to now come to the surface. Tempting as it is to want that to be the case, it isn't. But what you are seeing is a product of various lifestyle choices and decisions which are being influenced by her narcissism. So whilst it's not the case that the evil is making her look this way, it is her narcissism that has caused her to end up looking in the way that she has. Now, some of you are no doubt thinking to yourselves, well, given that she's a somatic narcissist, HG, surely she would want to look her best, and surely she must look in the mirror and realise she isn't looking too good, that she is looking gaunt, that the clothes don't fit, that her bosom has disappeared, that her skin looks pitted and dried out, etc. Surely she must see all of this. Then why isn't she doing something about it? It's an entirely appropriate and valid question. And I'm going to address that in a separate video linked to the question of why was her nail polish chipped? Because that addresses the similar concerns to those that I've just raised. So look out for that video, which will give you an explanation as to why is it when she's looking so terrible, she doesn't do anything about it. But in conclusion, the way that she looks is being driven by lifestyle choices, and those lifestyle choices are being driven by her narcissism. I'm HG Tudor. Thank you for listening.